I feel very vulnerable when I'm angry. And I think the reason for that is because I have the emotional maturity of, I'd say, probably a toddler when it comes to dealing with my anger. Hello and welcome to Divergent Paths. I'm your host, Dr. Regina McMenomy. And today's episode is a tender one. We're talking about emotional development, what it means to grow up emotionally, what happens when that growth gets interrupted, and how masking or trauma can shape how we express or suppress our feelings. This conversation got personal, like really personal, and I found myself getting emotional, crying, in fact, I think for the first time on the podcast. So if you've ever felt like you're behind or been told you're too sensitive, too reactive, or just too much, I hope this episode helps you see that what you've carried wasn't a flaw. It was a strategy, a survival tool. So stay tuned, and thanks for listening to Divergent Paths.
Wait, let me ask you this. We go through puberty. Our body changes.
Yes.
Our mind changes as well.
Yes.
What about our understanding of emotional
Yes.
things that are happening? Is that emotional maturity?
I mean, generally, just as you develop, there's kind of a basic timeline of typical emotional development that we expect based on the physiological changes that we go through. And really, emotional maturity wouldn't end when you're a teenager necessarily. Most of the heavy brain development continues into your 20s. So a lot of that development is still continuing as you're what we would call, young adult, past like teenage years or whatnot.
How is emotional maturity different in neurodivergent people?
Well, one of the things we need to continually remember with people who are neurodivergent is that this is a developmental disability. So it means that you're maturing just in general more slowly, because that's essentially what all of it means. That's essentially what this is. This is as a developmental disability, everything's going to be a little slower. But one of the things that often comes with neurodivergence or neurodivergent brain types are big emotions, like very deeply feeling and very intensely feeling. So you have a delayed development of those. You have God damn it. You have a delayed development of your maturity of dealing with your emotions, and at the same time you have more intense emotions.
Help me out here. And I feel like this could be an entertaining story. Tell me a time of like when this has happened to you, when you've felt like
when I felt
got a little emotional immaturity going on.
So I've mentioned, I think, to you offline, but also in the show, I think I've talked a little bit about the fact that I've been in some pretty intense counseling process over the last year. And part of that related to the last episode with the alexithymia, which not recognizing what my emotions are as part of how my autism manifests. So in very recent, in the last 6 months or so, I've been learning what my anger feels like.
Okay.
Because I suppressed my anger so much that anger felt numb. I just didn't feel anything when I was angry for a long time. And a few months ago, I went through a breakup of a relationship that I was in. And for the few days after the breakup, I just didn't really feel anything at all. And I swim regularly with one of my closest friends. And I didn't think about this until I talked to my counselor about it. Swimming is bilateral stimulation, which is essentially the same thing you do when you do like an EMDR process, which is a therapeutic intervention to help you kind of dig into deeper emotional states. So I was swimming a couple days after the breakup, and I was thinking about what had happened. And all of a sudden, I felt this like hot, almost lava feeling, like not like indigestion. This is going to sound like indigestion because it was like right under my rib cage. I started feeling this like hotness. And as I started thinking about everything that had happened, I realized that I was very angry and that I had managed to box my anger so completely that I just had no place for it in my body until I started focusing on it, and it swelled up as I was swimming. And so as I was swimming, I was just thinking about like, as I, going through the motions of swimming, the back and forth, I was thinking about how I felt and how hurt I was and about the choices that had made me feel hurt and all of this. And I just started processing it. And I feel very vulnerable when I'm angry. And I think the reason for that is because I have the emotional maturity of, I'd say, probably a toddler when it comes to dealing with my anger.
Are you crying a bunch with
I mean, I was imagining as I was swimming that I was punching someone.
Okay.
And it was very therapeutic. I felt so much better after that swim.
Well, this is why rage rooms are possible.
Or popular
right now.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah, this is. Yes, exactly. Like I was able to just kind of like lean in and process.
Right.
And it was very productive because it was a space where I wasn't taking it out on anybody. I was just dealing with it on my own. And that made it that much more solid, right? Like I was able to just sit and feel it, right? Like I was trying to get you to understand feeling it in your body. I was able to feel it in my body, and I opened up that box, and now I know, because I'm starting to recognize that it's almost like my breath gets a little short. There's like the swelling. It's harder for me to take a deep breath. Like those are parts of the process I have when I'm feeling angry. And as we started this recording, I joked before, we really started the recording that I was coming in hot today because I've had a lot of things that have been very frustrating leading into recording today. And yeah, and so I'm still trying to breathe through some of it right now.
Well, I can say that when you're angry, you don't laugh at my jokes.
I don't laugh at your jokes.
That's how I'm gonna be able to tell when you're angry or not, because I tried to start with something and then I went through the whole thing and I was like, oh, this will be entertaining, and then you just kind of stared at me, so I'm editing all of that out. That's all being removed.
That's all being cut because you're like, nope.
I'm learning. I was thinking through, like, when have I seen you angry recently? And I don't know if I have. I've seen you upset about something, but I haven't really seen you as angry. Now, is that because I'm missing
you're delightful.
Or what's that?
They said you're delightful.
Oh, that's why. That's why. Okay. No, is there a bit of I guess unintentional masking that you're doing, so I'm not picking up on it?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, like my we're on video, even though it's a podcast, right? Like you're seeing me, my affect is flat. I'm usually usually smile a lot more. I'm usually much more relaxed. I'm not relaxed right now. I know I will relax as we kind of get into recording the episode, but I am not right now. Like, I am still tense. I am still feeling it in my shoulders. I'm still like,
maybe we should do a breathing exercise, pause, come back, restart the recording, see where you are. So, okay. I guess I'm just trying to figure out how it all comes together. Like, how, like you said, you had the emotional,
right.
the toddler,
Right. The response.
maturity.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it regression? Is it, you don't understand those things? You don't understand anger, so you're not moving it forward? Is it like, what is it that's
yeah, I think that's part. I think I'm so used to, there's a concept in this of emotional suppression. So if you learn to just avoid your feelings and to suppress them, that's my natural state for anger. I usually what has happened in my life, it's different now because like just sitting here being able to say I'm angry and it's having this physical reaction for me is loads better than I would have been even a year ago. But I do tend to just push down and suppress my anger in particular. And I think growing up, anger was not a feeling that I was allowed to have as a kid. I think a lot of us probably had that. Like, I've always leaned into making sure my small human knows that, she can be angry because it's really important. Anger is, feelings are just information. There's nothing bad or scary about them. But, how you deal with them and how you address them is really important. And I think I've mentioned several times just being able to take a little time to let yourself feel the feelings and not react from them is really important. But for me, with the anger, I'm just used to not reacting to it at all. What would often happen is I would suppress it for so long, and then something small would set me off, and I would,
Well, it gets to a point of where you're really upset about something. It's building in there. It's this boiling thing, and then you get the
then something
trigger of
small
whatever it
triggers
is,
you,
and you
and
just blow up at that.
It tips you over, right? It tips you over, and that's the bad, like that's the bad pattern. So the fact that I can even sit here and talk about it, like I'm relaxing now. Just talking about it has helped my shoulders relax and help me, I can see in my face on the camera, I'm starting to relax. I'm trying to smile a little more. If you told your Uranus joke now, I would probably laugh.
Well, now people want to know it, but
all right.
it'll be in the outtakes,
in the blooper reel.
Right. Show 100. Stay tuned.
Yes. So I think that need to suppress emotionally goes along with the people pleasing that I did. I think that, people pleasing of hiding my authentic self, over prioritizing my mom's, in particular, her expectations of me and my expectations to feel about things the way she wanted me to feel about them. That was a real limitation, that it wasn't okay for me to have my own feelings. I had to feel how she felt or how she wanted me to feel. And that manifested in many different ways in my life.
So you sort of had to fake it there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just learn the faking, and that's what you've learned. And so that's what you do and continue to
you continue to do it because that was the basis of my childhood. That was the basis of my adolescence, especially my adolescence. My dad died when I was 13. So, things were really hard at home for me when I was a teenager. I didn't get to have kind of a traditional teenage, thing because I was constantly trying to make sure my mom stayed okay because she was grieving. And I didn't want to make too many waves. I didn't want to make things difficult. So I didn't get to have kind of like the teenage rebellion you would normally have. I didn't really get to have that.
You seemed, when I met you, just going back, I met you during the teen years.
Yeah.
You seemed more like adult.
Yes. Yeah. I've been parentified. I've been taking care of my mom by the time you met me, I've been taking care of my mom for 4 years.
Right.
Taking care of my mom, making sure we had groceries, making sure we had food for dinner, making sure the garbage went out, the bills got paid. Like I was doing all of that, started when I was about 13. So,
right. So you're focused on all of that. You're growing
Mhm.
all of those things. You're very, mature in all of those.
Right.
Is everything, is the emotions, is that like, that's like stuck in that
Mm-hmm.
particular spot?
Yeah.
Like
They were
from
stunted. Yeah.
prior to?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get unstuck? Of course, that's got to be the question, right?
That is.
Or how have you started to get unstuck? Because it sounds like maybe you're not completely unstuck.
I'm not completely unstuck. I don't believe healed is a state.
Right.
I believe in healing, and I believe we're always, sort of working on stuff. And your older patterns are going to, continue to be your dominant patterns. It's just like anything else. The more you do something, the easier it is to do, and the more comfortable your brain is doing it. So my brain is not comfortable with anger in particular. Um, I think I manifested a lot of my anger into kind of this deep sadness that I had, um, which I'm wondering if you saw any of that when we met, because we were 17 when we met. And I felt like there was a lot of sort of underlying sadness at that time in my life that I also didn't address until years later.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Like that didn't stand out to me.
I was
That was
masking
not,
pretty well then back then too, though.
yeah, right.
That's part of it, right? This emotional immaturity is related to masking because, I was very skilled at putting on
Right.
a happy face.
So, okay, the question, would be like, if I'm listening to this episode, I'm starting to wonder, like, okay, well, I'm a person, let's say that deals well with anger. Clearly, I'm not describing myself here. I'm a person that describes myself as dealing well with anger, but I'm listening to this episode and I'm thinking, well, is it that I deal well with it and I can, like handle it, or is it that I'm hiding it and masking and, you know, stuck? How do you know the difference?
What does it feel like in your body?
Okay. And how?
No, tell me. Tell me. What does it feel?
Oh
What
no,
is
I'm
your
not.
anger?
This is my fake person. Fake person. I totally get angry. Where does it where does it feel in my body? Everywhere.
I mean, that's valid. Like the fact that, I was able to identify it as this heat that starts, kind of under my rib cage and that kind of sits there. And I would like to get to a point where it becomes something I can harness, because your anger can motivate you to set boundaries, which is something that emotional immaturity makes really difficult, setting boundaries, because you're not sure and you don't know what your emotions are and you are behind on where you're supposed to be developmentally and all of these different things. And um I'm trying to remember what I was just saying. I lost my train of thought. See, this is another manifestation of my difficulty with the anger. Oh, right. I
Right.
would like to learn how to harness it, because your anger is intended to protect you. Like that's like what anger is supposed to do, is supposed to help you know when you're supposed to protect yourself, right? And as someone who suppressed their anger for so long, I didn't understand. Oh, I'm going to get emotional here. I didn't understand how to protect myself. Like I didn't know. I still am learning that. I'm still learning how to protect myself. And I need to get to that anger to be able to protect myself.
But I think just recognizing it, right? Like
Yeah.
knowing that it's there, seeing it,
Yeah.
knowing that, okay, this is something that I do. This is something that I um maybe don't like about myself, or don't like that I do.
Yeah.
And figuring that out and getting to a point of like, okay, well, now that I know that I do this, how do
Right.
I
And learning to
make
be okay
myself
with it, right? Like,
okay with it? Yeah. Yeah.
knowing that, like, your emotions don't make you bad or aren't things to be shameful for, which I think is a good portion of what I've felt. No matter
Right.
what emotion it is, there is some shame involved with almost every strong emotion I have, because I have felt so deeply for so much of my life and have had to box it up. And I'm not just talking about the anger. Like, the anger is the one that, like, I think was the most suppressed, because, like I said, anger just made me feel numb, right? I just didn't feel anything. I cut myself off from it so completely. But like, I really deeply love things.
Mm-hmm.
And not just people, and not just, but like, I love music. Like, I have only just in the last 6 or 8 months realized exactly how much I love music. And you would ask me a couple of years ago, when I was doing my pop culture focused podcasts, I would say, like, well, I don't really know much about music, and I don't this or that. And I realized that part of that was masking, because I was hiding how intense my feelings about music were, because
Mm-hmm.
intense emotions were something I was shamed for so early in my life that I just learned to suppress it instead. And it's not just anger. I suppress the joy as well. That's part of what masking does. It hides all of it. You don't always get to pick and choose.
Because it's me and you and I know each other well. The way that you're talking about this, and the comfortableness of you showing emotion in this episode,
Right.
is partially because you and I know each other well, right?
Yes.
I would think.
Yes. There's a
Um,
great depth of trust between the two of us.
and here's the thing. I would think that, let's go with anger, right? Like, if you are comfortable with somebody, perhaps you're angry at, somebody else, somebody, pisses you off on the street as you're walking by. You're upset at that person.
Right.
You get home, you're with your spouse, you're with your friend, you are more comfortable with them, and therefore you display that anger and sort of take it out in the wrong places. Do you
Hmm.
see that happening with this? Because I feel like that would be
Yeah,
something that could
absolutely. I mean,
really,
part of
really
it, like,
happen here.
if you're, pressing, if you're suppressing, if you're in this, survival, masking is a survival instinct, right? In
Mhm.
order to blend in when you're neurodivergent, when you're undiagnosed, when you have, bore the repercussions of that, um, of not being recognized. Um, you are in that state of fight or flight a lot of the time, right? And you might not even know it, like, because it has just become so naturalized to you, right?
Right. So these close relationships, like, I mean,
Mhm.
they're feeling the brunt of it.
Yeah.
They could be hurt because
Yeah.
um, you're sort of taking it out in the wrong spot.
Yeah, you can. Absolutely. And if you are suppressing that anger, and it, like we said, there's like that one thing that sets it off. It could be something small that your partner does, or something small that your child
Yeah.
does, or something, because is the thing
Right.
that, and then, yeah, you are, because you're not addressing your emotions when they happen. Like, here's another example. I'm already activated, so I might cry again, just a warning. But this is a happier version of this, and it's not anger based. Um, my mom passed away 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years ago this year. And this past week, my small human was in the Wizard of Oz. And I got pretty emotional while they were singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, because my mom loved The Wizard of Oz, like, loved it. I still have some dolls that she had collected, because my mom collected dolls.
She loved the dolls.
She did. Her special interest for her whole life were dolls, right? Um, and I have a set inbox still of this, kind of Barbie-sized dolls for Wizard of Oz. And I had a moment where I got choked up while they were singing, and I got sad. Um, because my mom wasn't able to see my daughter in The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
But I was able to just sit with it and let myself be sad. And it passed so quickly that I was like, was that real?
Right.
Because usually what happened, because I was suppressing my sadness for so long, was when I would have a moment like that where it came up and it was that level of intensity, I would get lost in it and it would consume me. And that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a moment for me where I sat back and I was like, oh, this is the growth. My counselor is constantly telling me, she's like, you've grown so much. And I feel like I'm still flailing because I still feel like a toddler.
Right. Are you crawling or are you?
And I'm definitely walking
Baby
at this
steps?
point.
Okay.
I
Well,
think
that's
at this
good.
point, I've actually kind of gotten up to probably where I would be developmentally school age from, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, okay.
This is, which means I'm kind of pacing with my child.
Right. Well, actually, so that sort of involves my next question here. You went to your mom on this too, and what I'm wondering is, did you sort of inherit this from your mom?
This is definitely generational trauma at work. Yes.
Yeah.
This is
So
how,
then,
how the family didn't deal with, emotions.
right.
It's continued on.
So how do you, kind of stop the cycle here and not make this further on transgenerational trauma?
I've already done a lot of that work. Even though I didn't know how to deal with my own emotions, I knew that my small human needed to be able to feel hers. And I have been worried that she would not know how to set boundaries. But one of the things about knowing what your feelings are is it's a lot easier to set boundaries with people because you know what's yours and what's not yours. I have been, ever since my daughter got her Roblox account, her Roblox. There's Robux, and I kind of like, just combined those two words in my brain.
Right. There's also Rubik's
right.
Just confuse you even more.
Once she started playing games that had online messaging services in them, and she was like 4 or 5 when she started playing these games, I have drilled into her certain information about internet safety. You do not share your real name. You do not share the town you live in. You do not share the name of your school. You do not share, your age, period. That is expanded now that she is heading into tween territory, where I said, if anybody sends you any unsolicited pictures, you bring your device to me immediately, right? And that goes for friends as well, to have conversations about these things. And recently, one of her friends started a YouTube channel and had posted a bunch of videos, and she was going through them, and she's like, oh my God, she has a video and she's wearing a school sweatshirt with the school name on it. She's like, she needs to take that down. And I was like, yeah, right. She's like, she doesn't understand. And I'm like, you're right. She doesn't understand. Do you want to have a conversation with her about it? And she's like, yeah, I'm going to tell her. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
Now understand that not everybody's parents are going to have been as attentive as I have been to help you understand this kind of safety. But like, that's just a boundary. That's just a boundary. And she was like, she was upset too that she had put videos of other of her friends on. And, I'm like, well, their parents need to know that. And so that ended up being a thing and a conversation I needed to have. And I'm very clear with her about there are times when I have to talk to the other parents, right? And those are boundaries that we have too. I want you to tell me things, but there are times when you tell me things I have to tell the other parents. That's
right.
Just where you're at developmentally. We're still in needing to protect you phase. So
yeah.
So she is good with boundaries, in part because she knows what her feelings are, right?
What would you say someone listening who's sort of realizing that their emotional growth may not be where they want it to be.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say it's never too late. It's never too late to do this work. It's really important to frame this away from shame, which is still obviously part of the work that I'm doing, and being aware of having a level of self-awareness to allow you to look at this and go, okay, I'm reacting in a way that is probably not, appropriate here. I'd want to encourage anybody who could afford it to seek out counseling, seek out peer groups. If you can't afford, individual counseling, seek out groups that you can talk to. There's a lot of resources at libraries and things like that for groups you can do. A lot of counselors will have group counseling sessions as well. Co-regulation can be really important. That's where you just have a person that can help you sort of regulate through your emotions. That's really valuable as well. And a really important way, I think, to reframe this is to think about your immature responses as under-resourced versus broken. So it's more about you don't have the tools or the support or experiences to respond differently. It's like that when you're learning how to do something, it takes a few times of dealing with it to, get more efficient or get, more capable.
There's really there's no deadline for this, right?
There's no deadline for this.
There's no it's I should be at this particular stage. I should be doing this.
Right.
With this or with anything in life, I guess.
Really, truly. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be on a timeline just because there is a normative development that they think is how it's going to happen. Like everybody ends up having some sort of trauma. Like everybody has things that happen to them that they can't control. And that's significant too. Like you don't have to stop growing. You don't have to stop healing. Like I said, healed isn't a thing. It's always healing. And I think the shame too can come from feeling like you fall back into those old patterns. Like if you catch yourself doing the things you don't want to do anymore,
right.
Shame can kind of pull up from that too.
So it's if you're not feeling like right about something, if you're not if your relationships are having problems because of this, if you're, not feeling like you are able to express yourself in the, and it's like, that's the time when you should probably reach out to somebody.
Yep.
And you also are a great person to talk to about this. So how do they reach out to you?
Yes. Oh, please contact me on my website, divergentpathsconsulting.com. Book a free discovery call with me and see if we're a match for some coaching. I'm also starting up a peer group for late diagnosed people called NERD.
Love that.
My NERD group, to Neurodivergent Education Resource Discussion, which I will be holding monthly. So there will be resources and information about how to sign up for that on the website as well. So please come talk to me. If this episode hit close to home, you're not alone. I cried while recording it, and I'm not going to edit that out because that moment is the point. Emotional maturity isn't about having it all together. It's about being real, about letting the masks fall and learning, sometimes for the first time, how to feel without apology. If you're on that path, welcome. There's no deadline. There's just today and the next brave step forward. Thanks for being with me in this one and listening to my ever so authentic process. Until next time, take your time and take your feelings seriously.